Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our final edition of Five Nights of Lives and Vibes. I am excited to be alongside Nurse Alice Benjamin and some very special guests tonight. Tonight is going to be full of excitement. Our trivia game will be the most competitive that has been all week. And don't even get me started on the ways that you guys might learn some very interesting things tonight. Listen, people have been texting me questions all day already in preparation for this. And so I really am going to be asking for a friend. So I'm excited. So now I want to welcome my fabulous co-host, Nurse Alice Benjamin. And you know what? Honestly, she's the boss. I'm the assistant boss. I don't even know if I can really consider myself the co-host. I am the assistant host. That's what I like to refer to myself as. So Nurse Alice Benjamin, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, Crystal, thank you so much. And listen, Crystal's really the boss. She just, didn't want to say that, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm so glad to have you, Crystal, and I'm glad to be back. Now, listen, it has been an amazing week, 5 nights of lives and vibes. Now, y'all, I have been with you all week. Okay. So we are here tonight asking for a friend, right? And again, this is in celebration of National Minority Health Month. So something that's very important. But let's recap the week a little bit. So on Monday, we talked about high blood pressure, heart disease. You guys had me the whole evening, and that was an amazing conversation. And listen, the next day got even better. We talked about men's health. We had Dr. James Simmons on there with us. Amazing conversation. And listen, we took men's health and then we spilled it over into Wednesday, which was mental health check-in, which we had Dr. Tart, clinical psychologist. That was amazing. So we kind of got a little bit of more of the men's health plus a mental health check-in. That's great. And listen, yesterday we had Dr. St. Clair for women's health, and we went a whole hour yesterday. Like it was lit. We were talking about so many wonderful things, and we didn't want the night to end. And listen, we don't want the week to end, but here we are. It's Friday, TGIF. And we are talking about asking for a friend. So we are going to get into those questions and conversations that I know you know all the answers, and you're just going to ask for a friend. And that's okay. That's okay. Because that's what tonight's here for. It's a no judgment zone. Ask the questions that, you want to know. It could be for yourself, could be for your friend, whatever. It's a no judgment zone. We are here to help you and empower you with information. So again, we don't have one, but two, but three. All of our guest panelists from earlier this week is going to be amazing. And listen, Dr. Tart's checking in. He was seeing some patients. Okay, so he's busy. Mental health is he's busy with a lot of work there. So hopefully he'll be joining us later this evening. And speaking of joining, please make sure that you have your friends, your family, your colleagues. It's Friday. What's everybody doing, right? Getting off of work, getting off of school, coming home to relax and joining this conversation. And that's what they need to do. So make sure you take that little arrow button thing there and just kind of share there, repost this on Facebook, and wherever you're tuning in, make sure you share it with someone. And listen, sharing is caring, because we are, again, also doing more trivia. So we're going to have our trivia. There's going to be points. We're giving away a $50 Visa gift card, or if you prefer, a $50 Uber Eats card. And I like to eat. I like Uber, so that makes sense. But then I also like the Visa, so I can buy whenever I want. And again, the way this economy is going, I'll take either one, please. Please. But you gotta play to win. Okay, gotta play to win. Don't give up on the answers. Listen, it's going to be progressively, the points will increase, and the last question literally could win it all. So I want to make sure you stay and play and join us and get engaged in this conversation. Now, Crystal, they're grabbing their friends. So Yep, they're grabbing their buddies.
So while you all are grabbing your friends and family, let me tell you a little bit about why we're here. We're really here because of the Harlem Renaissance Project, and we're in phase 1 of the project right now. And I say we're volunteers, but we support the project because we believe in the cause. So the Legacy Wellness Center will include the Samaritan Clinic, along with 5 other medical and wellness providers offering services including medical, dental, mental health, physical therapy, pharmacy, wellness care, focused on serving uninsured and underinsured individuals in Central and South Albany. So it's really a worthy cause, and I'm passionate, along with everyone here, about serving our communities. And so I couldn't be more excited about the Harlem Legacy Wellness Center.
Yes.
All right. So, all right,
Now,
Alice, I'll turn back
now-
over to you. Take us from here.
yes. So, okay. So is everybody ready? Listen, are y'all ready? I
Ready.
can't hear you.
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Okay, everybody's ready. Okay, wait a
Ready.
minute, but we need y'all to say hello and reintroduce yourselves again because I know you guys were just here. But Dr. James, remind the people a little bit about yourself, just real quickly.
Yeah, I'm Dr. James Q. Simmons. I'm a hospitalist and nurse practitioner and CEO of Simmons Medical and Media Consulting. And I do a lot of work actually around HIV prevention, particularly in Black and Brown communities, as well as a lot of sexual health. So if you have those embarrassing medical questions or those embarrassing sexual health questions that you got, I'm happy to jump in. And I love men's health. I was super, super excited to be asked to talk about men's health earlier this week and back to talk about that and more. So it's really, really awesome to be here with y'all. And I can't believe we're doing this $50 gift certificate again, man. That's wild. Y'all better get in on that trivia. I'm jealous.
Oh, gosh. Just thank you, Dr. James. Now, Dr. St. Clair, let's remind the people. We were just here yesterday, but the party,
Yeah,
right?
no,
But the boys who are just joining in tonight.
we're fresh all over today, girl. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to be here. I'm Dr. St. Clair Sumaili. I'm a family medicine physician in primary care. I do hospital stuff. I do hospice. But anyway, main thing right now is a push for holistic wellness, a push for holistic knowledge. I have a passion, especially for my ladies. So big proponent for women's health. But yeah, we're here to make things happen, to give away prizes, and to answer all your questions. So everybody get ready. That's why we're here today, to serve.
Get ready, get ready, get ready. Okay, so again, get ready means we have some trivia. We want you to put the correct answer, put your answer in the chat box. The first correct answer wins the points. Again, it's going to get more progressively higher in the points. So if you don't get the first one or the second one, don't worry. You still have a chance to win that $50 gift card, Uber Eats or a Visa gift card. So let's go ahead and kick it off because we already have tons of questions that are coming through in the chat boxes already here. Okay, so let's start with this question. Bet you didn't know. Heart attack symptoms in women can include all except. Now, this is a 10-point question, okay? 10-point question. Bet you didn't know. Heart attack symptoms in women can include all except. Your choices are A, jaw pain, B, nausea, C, chest pain, or D, sneezing. I'm going to give those to you again. The questions there on the screen. Your choices are A, jaw pain, B, nausea, C, chest pressure, or D, sneezing. Go ahead. Let's take a couple seconds. Give you 20 seconds to put your correct answer in there. Listen, we're playing for a $50 Visa gift card. If you don't want it, I do. So stop playing.
They want it. It's Friday night. They want that gift card.
They do.
I know we got to turn up a little bit. You can do a lot with $50. I know the economy is something.
What you say?
You can still make $50 $50. You know what I'm saying? Like you can make it. I was gonna say okay. You can make it last.
All right. Oh, I see the answers coming in. Okay. Now, Dr. St. Clair, I'm gonna pitch this one to you. Can you please let our audience know what the correct answer is? Again, choices were jaw pain, B, nausea, C, chest pressure, or D, sneezing.
They gotta be D. D for sneezing.
Okay.
That's the correct answer.
So what you mean? Oh, because I'm sneezing, that's not a sign of a heart attack? No? What are the signs of a heart attack?
No.
Let the people know.
That's a great question, Alice. In fact, while we're on it, let's talk about the major ones and some subtle ones. So like you rightfully said, jaw pain. That's a really big one. And a lot of people think, especially if you don't have any recent dental work, don't question that. Go ahead and get that checked out. And then nausea is a very common one. And tied with nausea, especially onset of nausea that's very abrupt, very like out of nowhere type of feel, as well as indigestion. A lot of patients can't even differentiate between indigestion and actually having a heart attack. Some patients have it so bad they describe like an elephant is sitting on the chest, which actually also translate to like chest pain. So, you know, some people will play it out like, hey, I had a big meal, I'm good. No, these are signs of potentially a heart attack, and there's no harm in just getting checked out to make sure, because it can mimic an oral issue. It can also mimic a GI issue. And in addition to the chest pressure, I also want to add on a big one, sweating, what we call diaphoresis. So ladies, that might look like a hot flash, but sometimes it's not a hot flash, especially when you feel like you're all of a sudden sweaty, you're cool, you're clammy, and then you're also beginning to have some chest pressure in addition to the sweating. Like, this is an opportunity for you to pay attention to your body. So when you feel one thing, I want you to be more conscious about it and more intentional in paying attention to, am I losing any other sensory? Is something changing? Is my vision changing? All these could help you know, no, it's time to go to the emergency room. But yes, Alice, sneezing is okay.
Okay. Now, hold on. Now, and we're also taking questions, guys. So please ask your questions as we're going through this. Okay. We're going to get to as many questions as we can this evening, but I did see one question that popped up, especially related to this. It said, how soon after a heart attack can I have sex?
Well, judgment-free zone.
Judgment-free.
But
we don't judge, right?
The number one answer is let your cardiologist clear you. That's always the number one, because you go through, depending on the type of heart attack and depending on the intervention that's going to be needed. Because what is essentially a heart attack? One of your blood vessels in your heart is blocked. It could be blocked because there's something that has caused a clot in that blood vessel. And sometimes it could be a small blood vessel, and sometimes it could be a blockage in the huge blood vessels that feed all your other blood vessels. So my point is, there's a severity to the type of heart attack that you have. And so the intervention is going to vary. And based on the intervention, there's going to be a varied downtime, including intercourse. And I'm glad that person asked that very vulnerable question, because it's a very valid question. So any kind of activity, sexual intercourse, or anything else that is exertive, even yelling at your children is an exertion, but anything that will take energy, you need to get clearance, because it depends with how much damage was done on your heart. So I would let the cardiologist clear you based on what happened and how much of the intervention had to take place. That's key right there. I hope that helped.
It does, Dr. St. Clair. So they actually had a follow-up question. So the follow-up question is, can sex cause a heart attack?
Yes, it can. Anything that exerts you, anything that increases your blood pressure, increases your heart rate, increases your oxygen demand, could, especially if there is a pre-existing issue. So there are some, if somebody already has like extremely high blood pressure, and then you engage in the situation, we're going to call it a situation, I guess, that could throw you into that kind of situation. So in itself, everything else equal, it shouldn't. But a lot of people exert themselves, not just in that area, but in any area. You know, you go to the gym, you go for a run, but your blood pressure was already high. You were already having chest pressure and you ignored it. You already having a bad headache and you ignored it. So in itself, it will not cause a heart attack, all else being equal. But if you're already having uncontrolled issues, uncontrolled blood pressure, your oxygen is not okay, anything that can predispose you to it, that in itself could cause you to have a heart attack.
And I think you make some really incredible points there, Dr. Sumaili, in terms of, I think it's really important for people to remember it's okay to have these conversations with your primary and with your cardiologist, because if you have a really good relationship with them, either of them before, let's say most people don't have a cardiologist until they have a heart attack, right? So like, let's say your primary care provider, we don't want you to be afraid to have sex. We don't want you to be afraid to exercise. In fact, those things are really good for you, right? And they can, in a lot of ways, prevent heart attacks. But if you have an open conversation and you know that baseline health status of yourself and your own body, then you know your risk, right? So you can talk to your regular provider, that be that a physician, nurse practitioner, PA, whomever, and you're like, cool, my partner and I can have all the sex we want, or I can start trying to run the marathon, or I can do all of these things, versus not knowing, right? Not knowing what your baseline status is, not knowing if you're at risk for a clot, not knowing if one of those arteries in your heart is starting to get blocked up, your cholesterol, diabetes, hypertension, all that stuff. So if you have a great relationship with your primary care provider, these questions all of a sudden don't become embarrassing, right? They don't become something that you don't want to ask. And it can actually save your life, and it can save your sex life, and it can save your exercise life, right? All of those things. So it is so important. I always tell people, I think I said this on earlier this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever I was on, Alice, that you date us. If you don't like us, if you don't feel like you can ask your primary care provider about your sexual health, swipe left. Find a different one.
There you go. Swipe left.
Because having that sex care, if you have big risk factors, can lead to a heart attack. So you need to be able to have that conversation with someone that you trust and you know that's not going to judge you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. James.
Story. I was telling Alice earlier that this conversation really has been working. I got a call from a young lady who was on yesterday's live, and she said, I recently went to the doctor, and she said, after listening to the live yesterday, I know I need to change doctors. She said, I felt like they were just throwing medicine at me and pushing all these things, and I just felt dismissed. I felt ignored. And so she said, as a result of that, she said, can I have the number to your primary care doctor? And so I gave it to her.
A good referral.
And
Love that.
She called and she said, I almost got discouraged. She said, because they told me that she wouldn't be able to see me until November. She said, but I was persistent. And she said, the lady was so helpful. She called me back and said, I just had a cancellation for a physical. So she said, you can get in May. And so it was just a success story. So I wanted to say hats off to this team, because that's the impact that you're making. I just figured you guys might like to know that.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for that story. And actually, we have some questions here in the chat box. Hold on, let me go to them. There's quite a few here. Where'd they go? So the first one I'm going to ask here it's coming from Elaine on Facebook. She said, what would be a reason for the doctor looking at my test, MRI, or any results, ask if I ever had a heart attack?
All right. So are we saying there'll be some tests that Elaine may have had or her friend may have had that showed something, and that the doctor would probably ask, have you ever had a heart attack? I'm going to come from that angle. And Elaine, thank you for that question. And feel free to clarify if I don't answer it accurately, but that's the angle I'm understanding your question from. And so the best way to explain it is there are some things that we look at that are called risk factors. And we touched on this a little bit yesterday when we talked about things like cholesterol levels, blood pressure, and things like that. So a lot of times when we see numbers that could predispose you to a heart attack, for example, cholesterol is a good one, because a lot of things, a lot of people have elevated cholesterol, and two things always come to mind for us. It's usually a risk for a stroke and a risk for a heart attack. So that would be a natural question, and that will be something that your doctor most likely would ask. Have you had any heart issues? Have you ever had this elevated cholesterol before? Is this new for you? Do you have a family history of heart disease? So Elaine, one of the results they would be looking at is definitely lab work. So that'll be elevated cholesterol, and that's your total cholesterol, your bad cholesterol, and what we call your triglycerides. That would be a big indicator, and they would most likely ask. The second thing is what we call incidental findings. So you come to the doctor to get something done, maybe lung related or even tummy related, and you go to the emergency room and they do a CT scan of your chest or an ultrasound or even an MRI of your chest or your abdomen. So they're not looking at anything to do with your heart. However, when they do the picture, a CT scan or MRI or ultrasound, they capture a little bit of your heart tissue, and then it looks a little distorted or it looks a little abnormal on that CT scan. Then that'll also make your doctor ask you or prime your doctor to ask, have you ever had any heart issues? And then typically they'll go ahead and order a specific imaging study for your heart, which is an echocardiogram. So those are usually the two things, like when you have abnormal lab work that are alluding to a potential heart predisposition issue, or if they find an abnormality coincidentally with imaging. Because when we do CT scans of the chest or chest x-rays, we always pick up a shadow of your heart, and it's not very accurate for the heart, but we have to talk about it because it does pick up a little bit of an abnormality. And then that allows us to know how deeper to proceed to further test your heart. So those are the two main areas, or the two main times we would ask about that. I hope that that helps. And the last one is family history. If in your initial questionnaire, you say that I've had a lot of family members with cardiac issues, and then that's another good time when your doctor would say, oh, okay, so mom had it, dad had it, your grandma had it. Have you specifically had any issues? That's a valid question if you have a positive family history of it. So I hope that helped, Elaine.
Oh yeah, she said yes. Thank you so much. That was helpful.
Oh,
so
okay.
she did. So and Dr. Was right on the money with everything. Now, having worked in the emergency room, this is the only other thing that I would add on to there is, like, some people, they'll have EKGs done for a variety of reasons, and sometimes we can see old heart attacks on an EKG, that 12-lead EKG form. That might be the only time outside of what Dr. St. Clair already mentioned, but when someone asks you that, there's a reason, right? And so I'll say this: when they ask you, lean into that conversation and make sure you talk to them about your, like she said, your risk factors, your lifestyle habits. Let them know, well, I was having a little bit of chest pain one time. I recall this. So that's the time to actually lean into that conversation. So,
and you don't have to be, Alice, if I can interrupt, you don't have to, I think so many people get nervous around medical providers because you feel like you need to speak our language. No, it's our job to not speak medical talk. So
absolutely.
So if you're you can literally, Elaine, or anybody watch it, you can just ask, why do you want to know? Do you see something?
Right.
Because a lot of times we're asking because we do see something, just like Dr. Sumaili just said, and Alice just said, and there are things like silent strokes and silent heart attacks that you might have actually not known that you've taken on a little damage to your heart, or there might have been a really small blockage in your brain that caused what we call an ischemic stroke. All these things can happen, and you might not have ever known. They might not actually be affecting you, but because of that imaging, because like Dr. Sumaili said, it's incidental. We just happen to find it. Mm-hmm. We just want to clarify. And then, like Alice said, it can lead you to this other conversation of oh, wait, y'all saw something? Wait, I might have had a heart attack. Oh, let's talk about risk factors. Let's talk about all those things. So if we ever ask you, this is your carte blanche, full stop, your permission the rest of your life. If any healthcare provider ever asks you something and you want to know why, ask us why. We are here to serve you. Don't ever be afraid. And don't be afraid that you have to ask it in some academic way. Just literally ask why.
Right.
Hey guys, I'm getting a question over here about excessive sweating and why, and what they can do about excessive sweating.
So are we talking about excessive sweating in relation to the heart attack, or just generally excessive
They
sweating?
just said, why am I getting excessive sweating? I don't think it's in relation to a heart attack. That's not what I'm getting from it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, excessive sweating has a lot of different causes. For example, you could have what we call hyperhidrosis, you have a lot of activity in your sweat glands. No fault of yours. It's not an ideal situation, quite embarrassing. But you cannot not have sweat glands. So this is where we can get to some specifics about certain products that you can use. I mean, things have really changed a lot in the dermatology world, where there's a lot of stuff that can put a bit of a I guess to minimize that situation. That's one. There are some medical conditions that could cause you to sweat excessively. And sometimes it could be a symptom for something going on metabolically. For example, new onset. I've seen patients who come in with the only complaint is excessive sweating. And guess what? They end up being newly diagnosed diabetic patients.
Oh, yeah.
So that could be something to think about. Of course, you can't just come and tell me I'm just sweating excessively, period. We're going to have to continue what else is going on. So, but that is one of the things that we ask. That could be one. And then thyroid disorders, hyperthyroidism, whenever your metabolic your system is cranked up, you could be sweating a lot. And let's not forget the famous hot flashes. So there's a lot that can go into that, metabolically speaking, or if it's something that's just here and there, or is it constant? Has it been since childhood? So there would be a lot more that can lure us to whichever way to go with discerning what's the underlying cause. Because it could be nothing, in the sense that it could just be you just have hyperhidrosis, like excessive sweat glands. You're just uniquely and beautifully made that way. Or it could be leading to another condition. So we would just need more information. But yes, there are things that can be done, but a good diagnosis has to still be made to make sure it's nothing else underlying going on, because there are some metabolic conditions that come as excessive sweating. I hope that helped the audience.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, all of this is helpful. Everyone's in the comments. They're loving all this conversation. And I know we have some trivia questions. I just want to take this one last audience questions before we go to our next trivia questions, because it was still kind of themed around the same part. And I didn't want to just leave this one off just quite yet. But someone asked the question, is there permanent damage to the heart after a heart attack?
So that's a great question. And to answer it accurately, I'll try and just briefly remind us what is happening during a heart attack. So during a heart attack, like we mentioned earlier, one of the blood vessels, or a couple, or major or minor, either way, a blood vessel in your heart is being blocked, meaning, so imagine a long road and then a tree falls and then there's traffic that's backed up. Why is this crucial when it comes to your heart health? It's important because the traffic that's being backed up or blocked is blood moving through your heart, and from your heart, blood gets to go to other blood vessels to the rest of your body. This is important because blood carries oxygen. Oxygen is needed to every tissue to do what it needs to do for the life of every tissue, for every muscle. So that's the key thing. It's not just blood is not flowing, it's oxygen with the blood is not flowing. So to answer that question, when you cut off that supply for any amount of time, you have essentially deprived your heart muscle or heart tissue of oxygen. So yes, there will be permanent damage. The question is, how severe would it be? So what do? You're rushed to the emergency room. Hopefully you're within that 90-minute window where they can rush you to the cath lab where they go in, and then long story short, they find a way to open up that blockage to restore the blood supply. So here the answer is, so is there permanent damage? Yes, there is. When tissues die off, they do have damage that cannot really be restored. The key is, however, a lot of the damage can start being reversed if it's intervened early. So timing is everything when it comes to heart attacks. That's why they say, even when you're not sure, just go get checked out, because there's a window where if the blood, for example, let me give you just a very simple analogy. If you hold your breath, you can hold your breath for so long and not die, right? But at some point, there'll be irreversible damage. So we're trying to get help and intervention in that critical window where something can still come back. So the damage is still there, but you can function with that damage depending on how early the intervention was made. That is why you can go back to the emergency room and they'll see an EKG from 2 years ago that shows you had heart damage, but symptomatically you feel fine. So damage is it can be presented in two ways. So it's damage on the heart itself, but it wasn't severe enough for you to actually feel it, is clinically speaking, and that's always the goal. So I hope that helped.
It does. Time is tissue. So if you even think you might be having a heart attack. Go to the emergency room, be seen by a healthcare provider. Okay, so this is good, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into our next trivia question here because I know y'all want to win these points so you can win this $50 gift card. So our next question here is, and I bet you didn't know, sitting for more than 6 hours a day can increase your risk of death by A, 10%, B, 20%, C, 40%, or D, 60%. We're going to play some music. You got the questions up there on the screen. Again, sitting for more than 6 hours a day can increase your risk of death by. Oh, go ahead, DJ. We can play the music. A, 10%, B, 20%, C, 40%, or D, 60%. Go ahead and put your answers in the chat box. This one's worth 10 points. Someone put in there 10. They said, just give me the 10 points. We need your answer, Rachel. Okay. Time is tissue. These ladies is engaged.
Our
And gentlemen.
ladies have shown up, and our men
You guys are
tonight.
showing
Thank
up.
you,
Okay.
everybody.
All right. So sitting for more than 6 hours can increase your risk of death by, was it A, 10%, B, 20%, C, 40%, or D, 60%? Dr. James, I'm going to go to you for this one. Can you help us out with this answer, please?
You know what? I was just telling everybody to be vulnerable and be honest with your provider. I'm gonna tell you, I don't know the percentage. I do know how bad sitting all day is for you, and I can tell you why. But in terms of a percentage, let's see, if I had to guess, I would say C, 40, probably.
It's D, 60.
60. Good Lord. And listen, I think a lot of people will probably be surprised by that just sitting can be that damaging to you. But they say that sitting is the new smoking, right? In terms of how bad it is for your heart, your cardiovascular system, your immune system, your gastrointestinal system, your musculoskeletal system, obviously. All of these things, there's so much that it puts you at increased risk for type 2 diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, what we call cardiometabolic disease. It's like this big name for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high blood sugar, not even necessarily diabetes. All of those things put you at high risk for heart attack. They put you at higher risk for stroke. They put you at high, I'm like kind of the sexual health guy, right? So they put you at higher risk for erectile dysfunction, things like that. So sitting is really so damaging for us because this beautiful gift that we have, however yours looks like, however yours moves or frankly does not move, if it looks like somebody else's or not, it's meant to move. In fact, a lot of people don't realize that the primary mechanism by which our gut works, so you eat something and 12 hours later it passes through the other side. Most of that comes from movement, right?
Yes.
So a lot of times people will be like, we have, I'm mostly a hospital practice person. So we have patients who come in and unfortunately they lay in the bed for a very long time and they get really constipated. That's because they're not moving. There's so much
sitting at the desk.
to sitting. Yeah. So you can equate it to that. Here's my lovely desk right here. Now listen, I'm gonna show y'all. Look, I got my little rising thing. I can make this thing stand up. And we bought this on purpose so that as much as my partner and I work from home, we were like, listen, we're not sitting all day. It's really that bad for us. So it was, a rising desk. I suppose you get one at IKEA. They're not as expensive as you think, but it was an investment literally in our health.
Yes.
I got a bad back. I still try to think I can play basketball like I'm 22 years old. So I'd have messed up these hips and these ankles and this back and whatever. But when I stand, my body feels better. My bowels are better. And I just know from the science and the research, like me as a fat Black man who has been on high blood pressure medication since I was 19 years old.
Wow.
I have to do everything I can to mitigate my risk.
Yeah.
And one of those things, if it's as simple as like standing at my desk at home, it's something super easy that I can do. So if you don't have a standing desk or whatever, set your little alarm on your phone on your watch, you know, the Apple Watches will tell you to get up now, right? They'll say it's time to stand, right? Set those little things and listen to them. Get up, walk around the office, get up, walk around your house, go walk the dog, yell at the kids, like whatever you need to do, but get up and move. Don't sit all day long. Help it.
And let me just share a quick story. I was obviously working in the emergency room. I took a short-term assignment where I was doing telehealth so I could sit at home, look at me, sit at home, sitting too much. I was be at home and take care of patients, and sitting down, not knowing, you know, when you're seated and your knees are bent, just the way that your legs are positioned and those sharp, like 90 degrees from your hips to your knees, it really does not promote circulation. It actually increases your blood stasis. So it has the increased probability of clotting. It makes it just more difficult for circulation. All of those things are not good. And I can imagine that can contribute to a lot of other things. I mean, I'm not saying that sitting at a desk is going to cause a DVT, but we tell people, hey, when you're on an airplane, and if someone's on an airplane for just a couple hours and they can get a DVT, what more is someone who's sitting at their desk for long periods of time every day? So get up and move for so many reasons. And now this is anecdotal. I don't think that this is really true, but you know, I don't have a lot of junk in my trunk, and I'm just gonna be honest. I need all the plumpness there. So I'm just being honest. If I can, so get up and move.
This is a judgment-free zone. No judgment.
We listen. We don't judge.
Right. No judgment. No judgment.
You know, I love that you brought that up, because one of the other things that we take for granted is like road trips, you know, like, you know, this is a good time to also remind people, even something as just being on the road for long periods of time. Everybody's always going to summer breaks and vacations. Anything longer, anything that's going to be about 45 minutes to an hour past that, you should be stopping. Even 5 minutes, just get out, stretch at a gas station and keep moving. These are just little things that we can incorporate in our day-to-day. And of course, with the whole virtual space, we're all sitting down for so many hours. So I love what James said. You just put an alarm and get up, stretch, walk to the kitchen, stretch on the kitchen, come back, go to the mailbox. There is no mail, but just go to the mailbox anyway. Right. Come right back. So yeah, let's make it a mission. This is so encouraging. Let's just make it intentional to get up and move.
Absolutely. Okay. I have some other questions here in the chat box I'd like to ask. Now, not necessarily related to the question that was our trivia question, but I think this is probably a question that everybody wonders and never asks. It says, why do I experience excessive gas or flatulence? Now, let's be real. We've all had those moments where like, ooh, wait a minute.
All right. I guess
I am rotten inside. Now, listen. That's what we've said. I know I've said it, or I've said to my, oh, you are rotten. What did you eat? Right. I attribute it to something they ate. But is it something they ate? Could it be something else? You know,
there's one thing that, with this whole holistic and just looking at the body from a different angle. One of the things that I've learned that a lot of us have taken for granted, myself included, on a personal level and a professional level, has been gut health. Guys, gut health is critical. Oh my gosh, it is serious business. And so, yes, it's not just what you've eaten, but it's what you're lacking in the lining of your gut to get stuff taken care of. Because, when we eat food, we swallow, and then it goes through a digestive process, and then absorption is what takes place in our bowels, in our colon. And if stuff is not okay there to mitigate that absorption from your tummy all the way to your bloodstream, then we got a problem. So it could definitely be what you're eating, because there are some foods that are very high in what we call fermenting organisms. So in themselves, they'll be, releasing some stuff. But then secondly, your body is not equipped, because what causes that balance in our body to mitigate the flatulence, the bloating, is your pH, your bacteria pH in your gut system. We got the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, believe it or not. And so if you don't have a good balance between the two, then when your bad bacteria, which is predominantly the gas producing bacteria, then you get to be very gassy, very bloated, and you just don't have good gut health. You actually have what we call a leaky gut. This is why probiotics are so important. Incorporating probiotics in your diet, either by yogurts that have live bacteria, like what is it, Activia? I'm just naming just the random ones, or taking an actual probiotic supplement, or like foods that are very rich in good bacteria. Gut health is important. So no, it's not just the food you're eating. That could be one thing, but it's your body is not digesting or absorbing what you're eating correctly. And it's a lining issue. It's an us issue. And so we got to start working on our bodies, on our gut internally before we can do stuff externally.
The only thing I want to add to that too, because I think so many people don't realize how important, like you said, Dr. Sumaili, is how important our gut health is for our overall health. It really impacts so much of us. A big chunk of our immune system is in our gut. It is tied to our gut. So if you don't want to get sick, take care of your gut, believe it or not. But there's a couple things I want, since we're bringing up gut health, there's a couple things I want people to think about. If you have been on antibiotics recently, that balance of the bacteria that Dr. Sumaili was just talking about can really get thrown off, especially if you're in a really powerful, really strong antibiotic for a long time. So your stools, your gas, even your belching might smell different during and right after you've taken antibiotics. So that is something important to remember as well. Also, this one's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but I think it's really important. The smell of your gas can lead you down a certain road of getting checked out. So if it is the most foul thing you've ever smelled over a period of time, days, weeks, months, there can be something else going on. So yes, maybe your gut bacteria is a little bit off. Maybe it's part of what you're eating. Maybe it's just a genetic predisposition. Maybe it's a medication you're on. Maybe it's a new supplement you're taking, whatever. But it also can be so that something else is going on, particularly if you have something like dark, tarry stools, like your stools are like dark, like my monitor here, and you smell like almost metal or copper or something like that. That can mean that there might be some bleeding inside your gut or some other things going on that really need to be checked out. So again, it might feel a little uncomfortable, but holla at your provider, right? Holla at your boy and be like, listen, my gas has never been this bad, and it's been bad for like 3 weeks. And by the way, my stools are really dark. Or I haven't changed anything in my diet, and now all of a sudden it's happening, right? Like because we're not embarrassed for those questions. And so we don't want you to be embarrassed to ask them, because it could honestly save your life.
Right. Yeah. And I'm just going to add this little part, because there are some foods that we may eat that will cause us to have gas. And listen, gas is actually natural. Okay. It's flatulent. It's natural. It's not like, I don't think anyone doesn't have gas. I don't think that's even possible. Gas is just a byproduct of your body breaking down, kind of complex foods and the bacteria in your gut helping it out. But there are certain foods that can be a little more gassier than others, right? Things like beans, lentils, broccoli, cabbage. Ooh, that'll do it. The cabbage, onions, those type of things, and special types of carbs. Also, fiber that ferments. So that can happen if eating a lot of fiber in your diet. That can ferment. It kind of just sits in your gut. Now, I don't know all of the biological process, but it sits in there. And then the way that it's broken down, it kind of sits in there, and then the gas develops as a side effect. And then sometimes when we're chewing, sometimes we're swallowing extra air, when we're drinking like carbonated drinks, chewing gum, those type of things. Sometimes it allows you to swallow more air, and those can be things. So, but when in doubt, if you're clearing out a room, your poop looks different, you're having abdominal pain, have a family history of something, get your gas checked out. Okay. Now let's see. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Let me just chime in on that. I think I really love this platform, because in addition to educating the audience, we're empowering our audience to start having these conversations with your provider. I mean, like James said, if you cannot talk to your provider, you need to reevaluate your relationship with your provider. Now, I'm not going to advocate for you just, divorcing them just like that. But I would encourage a conversation to kind of re-examine and maybe realign with this new empowering information. You got to have a good relationship with your provider. And maybe that wasn't the culture until you came to these 5 nights of vibes and lives. And now you're like, oh gosh, I'm seeing things in a new light. I would say instead of calling them on Monday and just picking a new person, have another visit and just give them a chance, because I think a lot of what we're trying to do right now is to change the culture of patient, physician, or practitioner relationships, because it's a partnership and there's a responsibility on both sides. So things like gut health, flatulence, bloating, how your stool looks. I mean, my patients have brought me pictures and videos, and and all I could do was, first of all, thank them, because I know I wouldn't be, I don't know if I would. So I really appreciated that you trust me enough to give me something so vulnerable. I mean, there was no warning, but that's not the point. The point is I want them to feel that way because I was able to identify certain things. So we just want to encourage everyone out there to try to build that and be empowered. Yes. You are your best advocate. Take those pictures, take that video, and say, hey, I have a video here, and then just kind of see how that goes, because that's how you're going to get taken care of. So we just want to encourage these kind of conversations. So feel free tonight to keep asking them and figure out what we can help you with. That's what we're here for today.
Absolutely. And listen, I know y'all want that $50 gift card, the Uber Eats card or the $50 Visa gift card. So we're going to do another trivia question. Okay. So here it is. This one is worth 20 points. Okay. Now it's about exercise. So I'm going to ask the question the way it's worded, but then after that, we're going to get into the different types of exercises. But which type of exercise is best for protecting brain function and preventing memory loss as you age? Is it A, cardio, B, stretching, C, weightlifting, or D, high intensity training? Okay. Which type of exercise is best for protecting that brain and preventing memory loss? 20 points. A, cardio. Is it B, stretching? Is it C, weightlifting? Or is it D, high intensity training? We're going to give you about 15, 20 seconds to answer. Put your answers in the chat box there. All right.
We're getting them hyped up.
All right. There we go.
I mean, we got this too, but I'm not going to lie. I am humming Jeopardy theme in my brain. Exactly. I know we might not have the license for that or whatever. I'm just saying.
Right. Well, I was singing it on the first night, so.
I was about to say we can all do it a cappella together.
There we go. All right. Okay. So which type of exercise best protects brain function and preventing memory loss as you age? This is worth 20 points. Okay. And I'm going to take this one. Hold on. Let me just double check. What was everybody putting in the chat box? What were y'all getting in your chat boxes for answers here? What were you guys getting?
They're on a roll. We got cardio, we got B, we got A. I mean, they're on it. They're on it. So what you got? What you got?
Okay, so Alice? The correct answer is A, cardio. Okay, cardio. Now, I do want to say this: exercise, I mean, it serves lots of functions, but in this particular question, we were asking about brain function and preventing memory loss. And cardio, also sometimes you'll hear it referred to as aerobic exercise, is the best exercise for protecting your brain function and preventing memory loss. Now, these types of activities, what are some examples of that? Walking, swimming, walking on the treadmill, cycling, anything that increases your heart rate, because when we increase that heart rate, we increase blood flow to the brain, and we need that. The brain needs blood-rich oxygen to do its thing. It does. And so that is the main reason why the correct answer is A. And there are just lots of studies that show that people who perform consistent aerobic exercise, it's linked to better memory, sharper thinking, and a lower risk of dementia. So that is the answer. But we know that exercise overall is good for so many things, right? Mm-hmm. For mobility, for losing weight, for managing your sugar and cholesterol, like so many different things. It's good for your skin. Like it promotes circulation to so many other places. But I want to talk about these other exercises because they're actually all important. They all kind of play a role in here. So stretching is still good. You need it for flexibility, and especially as we age, you may, stretching gets harder as we age. So it's very important to maintain that elasticity, that we do that. We need to stretch. It actually helps us also with our balance. So when you like trip over that cord, your recovery is a lot swifter than it is than if you don't stretch, right? We've all tripped over a cord and sometimes been able to caught us, and then sometimes bam, right? So you want to make sure that you stretch because that can help preserve that. Weightlifting is also good, and you can actually burn a lot of calories with that. It's good for strength and bone health. And then now I will say this: high intensity training, it's not necessarily for everybody. So especially for people who have any kind of joint or muscular or cardiac issues, you want to get some clearance before you do that. It can be very taxing, but it is, if you're cleared to do it, it actually can be a great way to build strength, speed, and improve your mobility. So wanted to kind of go over those things, but I will also say this: the best exercise is the exercise you're going to do.
Yeah.
Because if I could tell you to do it, but if you don't do it, then
That's true.
there you go.
Yeah, it's such an important point, Alice, that I think people, and I'm just as guilty of this as well too. I think people, when we think exercise, people are like, okay, we all do it starting Monday. I'm gonna exercise 5 times next week. Right. Start on Monday. I'm gonna exercise 5 times next week. I'm gonna wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm gonna do 90 minutes. I'm gonna run I'm gonna go run 11 miles, and then I'm gonna lift, and then I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go to yoga, whatever. And we do, and you might do it for 3 days, and then you burn out because secret is you don't like running, right? So why set yourself up? Like I have been trying to be Serena Williams for longer than she's been alive. Now, tennis is amazing exercise. I played for 2 hours this morning. So, but I hate running. But I will run on that tennis court until I am blue in the face because I love tennis. So I'm still getting the benefits and doing something that I love. And the other thing, Alice, I know you were getting there, is how important exercise is for our mental health. And your mental health is your physical health, and your physical health is your mental health. They're all together.
Right.
Like, we're not talking about them differently anymore. So Alice, I think that is the most important thing. Listen, if you're a CrossFit girly and you're like, I'm going to CrossFit and out to run, cool. That's going to also be great for your heart.
When you're done.
If you're Tai Chi, if you're yoga, if you are kickboxing, if you are like whatever, you want to go be Simone Biles, like what, do something. I promise you it will help. And the last point on this that I will make is that as someone who works primarily in the hospital, at some point in our lives, we are all going to be hospitalized for something. And one of the most important factors that we look at as to whether or not you can go home is if you can stand up from that hospital bed on your own.
Yep.
So if you lay the groundwork now with mobility and strength along with that cardio, A, it's going to keep you out of the hospital. And B, when you dip into the hospital for whatever reason, you're going to turn around and go right back home once we get you better, because you can do things like stand and take care of yourself at home. So you're not only doing it for yourself now, but you're doing it for your loved ones, and you're doing it for future you.
Great points.
I'm so glad you mentioned that too, because one of the things is starting small. Like, don't set those goals that you haven't even reached your whole life. Let's start small, and let's not be pressured to like going to the gym. You can do so much at home. You can, I know I keep talking about this mailbox, but I'm going to talk about the mailbox again. I better check my mail then. But if all you can do is go to your mailbox, use what you have. And to the point earlier on that we were making, it doesn't have to be anything too strenuous. It can be something you enjoy. In fact, statistics show that if you engage in aerobic activity that you actually enjoy, the chances of you being consistent are higher. For example, patients who love to dance, put that gospel jam, put your jam in your kitchen and dance for 30 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. We just need you to move. And some patients are like, I don't like to run, I don't like to walk. And I'm like, okay, do you like to dance? They're like, yeah. I'm like, girl, you better dance your heart out every day. Dance for 30 minutes, 25. Your favorite jam. Leave your hair bonnet on. Yeah, I'm back with the hair bonnet. Just walk away. If you are a cleaning person, you better clean that house top to bottom with a vacuum. Just go around, and so it can be any activity that actually you enjoy. So I just wanted to throw that in there for those who are like, okay, I better go Monday and get a Planet Fitness membership. No, it's not that serious. You can do it from the comfort of your home. Just get active.
Look,
Oh,
everybody's loving this. Everybody's loving this conversation. They're saying dance for 30 minutes. Um, uh, Dr. James, you are telling the truth. Like,
indeed.
and people are saying, they do swim aerobics. So I love it. I love the engagement. Thank you all. You guys, we see your comments. Even if I don't call them all out, we see them and we appreciate it. Thank you for staying engaged with us. And so while our team is tallying up the points there, we want to take just a few more questions as they're wrapping up, and we're going to reveal the winner. Let's see. We have a question. Let's see. Someone asked, can you talk about the importance of water and bodily functions?
Ooh, yeah.
And it's interesting because there's another question right behind that. So for those of you on these different streams that are like, where are these questions coming from? You have 5 different streams going. So we're all seeing questions coming from different places.
Yes.
So I see one that asks about hydration and sex life. And so I guess you can combine those since the other person asked about water and bodily functions. I don't know. I'm not the doctor here. Just reporting.
And I know James can also chime in on the male perspective, but hydration, water is life. Hydration is so key. It is what is needed to drive the energy sources for every single function in your body. I always tell people it's like the gas that you put in your car to do your road trip. Water is a fueling source. In addition to food, you gotta have water. And you got to drink a lot of water every day. A minimum of 64 ounces is just the basic minimum. And I'm glad we're talking about this because a lot of patients have dehydration symptoms. And what are those? Something as simple as vertigo, constant dizziness, headaches is a big one. Your vision is fine, your blood pressure is fine, your sugar is fine, and somebody's like, I'm just dizzy all the time. And then when I ask how much water you drink, you'd be amazed at the answers people give. They're like, oh, I drink water. I drink a lot of water, doc. And I'm like, okay, can you quantify like how much is a lot? And they'll say with every meal or with their medications. That is not water. That is not what your body needs. You need at least 64 ounces of water a day minimum. And on hot summer skies, on the days you're outdoors longer, on the days you are exercising, you're exerting yourself more than usual, then you even need more water on those days. Water is what gives your energy, your sources of energy, the functionality to burn those calories for more fuel. So get you those bottles, start keeping count. I've started telling patients, I need you to be able to quantify. And a lot of them are shocked that they're 1 cup, like an 8 ounce with 3 of your meals is 24 ounces a day. That is not even the minimum for your basic metabolic functions. So in answer to the person who said, what about tied to sexual health? I believe that was a question. Absolutely. It is important for also sexual health, mental health, all kind of health. Water is a driving force for every single tissue. For anything to function with energy, it needs water. And somebody would probably ask, okay, what about what I need to put in my water? So I'm glad you asked. Water is different. So, there's this debate about spring water versus distilled water versus, I would say this, to really make your water very effective in hydrating you, adding something like a piece of lime in your water bottle every day is a game changer. And another thing that you can consider doing is taking a glass of warm water first thing in the morning before you have your big pancake and eggs. And we'll talk about that another day too. But warm water in the morning, even if it's just 8 ounces, it completely goes in and chimes in with your digestive system. And all of a sudden, things are moving better. Indigestion for the day is lowered. So water just sets the pace for so much. So I hope that helped. Any clarifying questions from the team?
No, I think you hit it right on the head. And again, the team is wrapping up the points. So we'll be announcing our winners very soon. I'm just going to ask another question for the team here. And where did it go? The question is, why do I have bad breath despite good oral hygiene?
This one's tough because it can our breath is tied to more than just what's up here, right?
Yes.
So it's really important. And I always tell people this and they freak out. The bacteria that live in your mouth and in your teeth, their second favorite place are the valves on your heart. So if you don't take care of your teeth and that bacteria fills up, they like to travel to your heart and they cause this thing called endocarditis, and you got to be on antibiotics for a long time. There's a whole thing. So take care of your mouth for sure. However, there's some other things that can really be clues if you have like halitosis. Fancy my glasses are a little, they're shining, they're glaring a little bit here. I'm gonna take them off so y'all can see me. The halitosis is like the medical term for I got bad breath, right? That can be tied to a couple of different things. And it can be here, it can be here, it can be here, and it can be way down in your gut. Okay. So what comes out and what your friends and family might be like, hey, friend, so we got a little problem. It might be that. So if you are like, I have amazing oral health. I floss every day, twice a day. I brush twice a day, and I still got stank breath. The first thing to look at is food you eat can really, really impact that. The second thing is go see a professional. Go see a dentist in particular, because they can look almost all the way back down to here to see if you have things like swollen salivary glands, if you've got an abscess in your neck, if you've got a tooth that you didn't know that was like going rotten, things like that. It can be a sign. So it's something I really want you to listen to. If you've got excessively bad breath, even though you feel like you're doing everything, it can actually be a sign of something else going on. And remember, it may not be just here in your mouth. There might be something in your neck or your throat, something further down and like in your chest and in your gut that you need a professional to try to help you diagnose. Okay. So don't ever be embarrassed of it. I know it's hard to say, right? People don't try to not have bad breath and all that kind of stuff. I'm like the Altoid king. I'm forever popping Altoids because I'm worried about my breath. But you have good oral health. You still have bad breath. Could be a sign something's going on. Please go see that provider that I love it, Dr. Sumaili, that you did not swipe right on, but that you had a conversation and said, listen, friend, we're going to have real talk now. Go talk to that person.
And the next picture was additions, but great point, James. And just the person with the oral health, you're doing great. You're flossing, you're brushing, you've changed every toothpaste on the market. Another thing, back to what James was saying, it could be gum disease. Gum disease is not something you can see, but it's something that the dentist can measure. They have like a specific tool, well, at least my dentist, but most of the dentists I know, they have a way to measure actual gum disease that is not even showing up in your teeth yet. So don't ignore that and just tell somebody so that they can check and make sure it's not another issue like James just told us about.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you go to the dentist and you're getting your checkup and they're poking your gum and they're calling out numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, back to 1.
So on the fours, right? I thought the fours and the fives.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, I don't want any 4 and 5s. If I hear 5, I might fall out the chair.
Right.
I heard 1, 4 and got upset. She was looking at me like, it's really okay.
He's like,
yes.
It's okay.
Right. And for those who are like, what do these numbers mean? When you go to the dentist, they will grade, is it the gum disease or the receding of the gum? Or
it's both.
We just know we want 1s, and maybe I could deal with a 2. I can work with a 2 and get it to a 1, but it goes from 1 through 5. So you don't want any of, I would even take a 3 before anything else, but 4s and 5s we get concerned about because that, but let me say this. First, we have to make an appointment to go to the dentist because the dentist probably is one of the medical visits. I'm going to put it in the medical health bucket here that many people overlook or feel is expendable because, oh, I brush my teeth. I'm fine. Nothing hurts. Right. And so they will forego their dental appointments. But just like your annual wellness visit, you should go for I don't even want to say annual, should be at least twice, I believe. Twice a year, you should at least get to the dentist. And that's for cleanings at 6 months. And during that time, they can, take a look at your teeth, your gums, anything that's bothering you, but also get on the preventative side because we know, and even dental insurance is harder to come by than medical insurance, and that can get very costly. And the last thing we want you to have to do is have to negotiate Am I going to pay my rent or am I going to pay for this root canal? Because it can
Right.
get very, very expensive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you
and on that note, periodontal disease has been directly tied to diabetes. And
Yep.
so, and we've seen a lot of diabetics come through for screening, and it wasn't a sugar issue per se. It was periodontal disease that was not responding to treatment per the dentist. And the dentist was like, have you been checked for diabetes? Because it's a direct correlation. And then they come to the primary care side, and there you go, they're diabetic. So it is tied. That just to give a little extra encouragement to not just don't forgo your dentist. They're just as important.
Absolutely.
And there
And
was
you know- go ahead,
oh,
Crystal.
I'm so sorry. There was one more. And no one asked this one. I learned this recently and it was mind blowing to me. And that is, we have grown up in an age where we are addicted to earphones and, we have our AirPods in all the time. So first off, in your device, there is a way that you can check your hearing. I know on iPhones anyway. I don't know about other ones. But why is that important? If you can't hear, because sometimes I feel like I can't hear. So I'm obsessive about asking my doctor to check my hearing. Because why? I don't want dementia. And a lot of people don't realize that there is a connection between not being able to hear well and always straining to hear and dementia. And I learned this most recently. Unfortunately, I lost my father, what's coming up on 2 years ago now. But one of the things that I learned was he didn't have dementia, but he really needed to wear his hearing aid and he didn't love to. But the doctor told him one day, you need to wear your hearing aid because if you don't, that really can put you at higher risk for dementia. So your hearing is important too. Just another reason to make sure you're getting your annual physical and wellness check with your doctor. So just
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Crystal, because before we we have the winner, but before we announce that winner, I think this has been an amazing conversation. It's been an amazing week. We've had some, our guests, clap it up for our guests. They have been amazing with all this wonderful information. But before we let the people go, and by the way, you'll be able to watch the replay and binge watch all of this week's episodes. When we talk about screenings, can we just run down kind of what those important screenings are? So we talked about like an annual wellness visit. That's important. We talked about going to the dentist. That's important. Getting your hearing screening, getting your eyes checked. Can we throw out some other important screenings or those time milestones for that? Like when, and we talked about this earlier in the week, but let's recap. Like when should a woman get her first mammogram? We mentioned that.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, so for the mammogram, it's now 40, but
Okay.
but recently there's been new guidelines that can push it earlier, even to 35. Especially like we talked about with Crystal yesterday, when you have a first degree relative with a positive breast cancer in the family, at least have the conversation. Look, regardless of what the guidelines say, we want patients empowered to even ask.
Yes.
There's no harm in saying, hey, I'm 34, can I get it? And this should guide a conversation where your physician can explain why you should, why you shouldn't, and they can also inquire more. Like, hey, I felt something all of a sudden. So don't be afraid to ask the questions. But yeah, it's 40, but there's push for even earlier screening for mammograms.
Okay, let's talk about something else that's also, especially in the Black community, and that is our colon cancer screening. How soon when do I get a colon cancer screening?
I think now we're at 45, and especially African-American race are being encouraged to not miss it because it's a higher incidence. And so it used to be 50, but now it's 45. Again, if you have a first degree relative who's had colon cancer, you need to ask as early as you want to ask, because you never know. Number one, it could be screening. Number two, you could have some diagnostic stuff going on. So you're not 40, you're not 45, you're 37, but you're having ductary stools, but you have a first degree relative who's had colon cancer. That needs a conversation. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
Okay. Prostate cancer screening. When do I get that?
We generally, so the guidelines have changed a little bit on that as well. So if you are, 50 is when we start talking about getting a PSA and doing what the digital rectal exam that everyone is so scared of, when they shouldn't be. However, if you are Black or you have had cancer yourself, or you have a first-degree relative who has had any type of cancer, not just prostate, any type of cancer, the screening happens earlier. So sometime between 40 and 45. And just like Dr. Sumaili said, it's have the conversation. Prostate cancer, while there are specific guidelines, just like colon cancer and all of these different cancer screenings in particular, can sometimes be individualized. So don't just be like, oh, I'm 44, I need to wait a year, but my dad died of prostate cancer at 62. Like, nope. You are having the conversation with someone. You are at higher risk. So we want you to get screened earlier. So even just ask. It's our job to know when those happen, not necessarily yours. So when you go in for that annual or even twice a year or whatever, right, with your provider, just be like, hey, what screenings do I have coming up? It'll encourage the conversation and you keep it going. So prostate cancer, people who have prostates, 50 at the very latest is when we're having a conversation. If you are Black, brown, or have a first-degree relative who has had any cancer, or you've had any cancer yourself, it's earlier, 45.
Okay. And the other cancer screen are cervical cancer screening.
So we talked about that yesterday. It used to be 18 and, the first age of intercourse, but now the guidelines are at 21. And like we said yesterday, it's 21. It's every 3 years. And you screen all the way to 65. But of course, there are other caveats to it. Like if you've had a total hysterectomy, if they're cervical cancer, pap smears are for cervical cancer screening. So if you don't have a cervix for whatever reason, congenital issues or surgical issues, then technically there is no reason to screen for cervical cancer because there is no cervix. However, I still think every female should get pelvic exams done, what I call the look and sees. Somebody got to look and make sure everything is the way it should and nothing is being missed. That as a female, as a woman myself, I really recommend patients pushing for themselves to just have someone who's willing to look. But that's where we are now.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. I couldn't leave the night without us going over that, because although we're talking about your annual wellness visit, that's important. But what we just named off, guys, were the milestones for cancer screenings. Okay, so these things are put in place for early identification. If we can have early detection, we can get to treatment earlier and hopefully have better outcomes for these things. Because sometimes you may not feel like something's wrong or going on, but there might be something once we do this screening. So those things are very important. Now,
so sorry. I know you're just dying to announce that winner for the gift card. But once the winner hears it, they'll be gone to make plans for the gift card. So let me just throw one thing in that is so important. One of the things with the annual wellness visits, and I think some people, we need to distinguish, there's a regular physical exam that you get every year, but then as you get older, 65, 63, 65 Medicare age group, you do get that other, what we call a Medicare wellness exam or wellness visit. Sometimes it includes the physical exam, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just to go over your immunizations and your vaccines. But what I do want to talk about or touch on is the importance of advanced directives. I do not know how many times I've been in the hospital when I work in the hospital and a patient comes in, an elderly patient, and they're intubated or something is fatally going wrong, and family members are looking at each other confused. The loved one did not say what they want. Then there's a bit of commotion in a high stress situation. Who makes the decision? So one of the things I would recommend is, as we're talking about these preventative measures and wellness, one of the things that is not an easy conversation is, if anything was to happen to you, God forbid, what would you want? What is your code status? Would you want to be intubated? Would you not want to be intubated? Would you want CPR performed on yourself? If you don't, these are conversations I would love people to also ask their physicians, so you have an understanding, so you can let people know when you're still in your right competent mind what you want, so that your wishes are respected. Because I see it so many times at end of life care, and everybody's arguing. That is not the time to make a decision that's in the best interest for the patient. Everybody is being selfish and all about them. And so ask your parents, ask your grandparents, ask your aging loved ones. And you know what? At this point, ask your spouse. You may not be 60 something, but let people's wishes be respected. And we can't respect them if we don't know. That way everybody is on one accord. So girl, I just had to throw that in there. I'm sorry. Yeah, we just
No, thank you so much. I mean, this information has been so helpful. I know that even as a provider, I found it helpful, and I want to thank everyone. You all have been. Oh, one more, Crystal.
We're so funny. You know, the other thing that I will say that people, you made me think about it when you started talking about the advanced directive. So the other thing that people need to talk about is what happens when someone has a stroke, because you get to the hospital and sometimes there's a question about, do you want TPA, and what are the risks for that? And oftentimes families are standing there like, I don't know what to do. And so there's we need to come back, y'all. We need to come back and we need to do a whole conversation around stroke. You talked about,
Absolutely.
tissue being lost, but when when you think about strokes and brains, same thing. Time lost is brain lost. And so y'all know I have my work hat on over here for the Heart Association. So all that's
We love it.
Right.
We love it. There's just so much information. And you guys, we wish we could stay on here forever and do this every day to give you all of this.
Yes.
Our guests have been amazing. The audience has been amazing. And you know who else is amazing? The winner. Kelly Knows Nursing is the winner of a $50 gift card. Listen, the team will be reaching out to you on social. Congratulations for your $50 gift card. Listen, buy me a little something too, please. And also, before we wrap, shout out to Harlem Renaissance Project. And again, Dr. St. Clair is actually a part of that and the Legacy Wellness Center there. So you can definitely continue. Please follow Harlem Renaissance there. You can see their Instagram and their Facebook. Also, when you follow up with them, you can actually learn more and follow. Maybe have Dr. St. Clair be be your provider. Maybe she's taking you. Yes. Listen. And there's been no co-pays for tonight, so this is courtesy of, right? So this has been an amazing event. I'm Alice Benjamin. It's been my pleasure to host you. Please, everyone, make sure you continue the conversation. You can replay this. You can replay all of the videos for this week. Share it with your friends, your family. And we're not saying goodbye. We're just saying bye for now because the conversation will continue. Again, thank you to Dr. James Simmons. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. You've been amazing.
On behalf of LaToya Cutts, not to interrupt you, but on behalf of LaToya Cutts, I really do want to pass on her thanks. She is one of the leaders on the Albany Harlem Renaissance Project. And so she expresses her sincere gratitude and thanks. And she actually has gifts for all of you. And so I'll be passing those along to you guys. And we really do just genuinely thank you all so much for your hard work and dedication and for doing this out of the goodness of your heart this entire week. Is just amazing. And you all are amazing people. So thank you
so much. Dr. James, Dr. Somali, Crystal, and to our team behind the scenes, Source One Creative. I'm Alice Benjamin. I want to thank you everyone for joining. And until next time, please make good choices, be kind to one another, and live well, my friends. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.